Hi, friends. We are back with another episode of Turn the Page podcast. And this week, we are going to be diving into another Book Club Fridays episode. Yes, I know it has been an absolute hot minute since I have done a Book Club Fridays episode, but like I've shared previously, I haven't been reading quite as much despite the fact that I have 5 books to talk about this week. um, it's taken me a little longer to get through things, and I don't know, I've just had so many other things to talk about and discuss with you that the books have gotten put to the back burner. But we are back, have no fear, and like I said, I have 5 books to chat with you about. First being Poems and Prayers by Matthew McConaughey. And I talked about green lights. It was in one of the first episodes of the podcast, and how much I thoroughly enjoyed that book, and how I had even bought it for friends because I was just like, okay, please read this. Matthew McConaughey has such a unique voice and a unique perspective on life. And the things that he has been through, the choices that he's made, the lessons that he's learned, and the ways in which he looks at them, I find to be so interesting and so intriguing. And so listening to him talk, it just pulls you in. It pulls you in. I listen to this on audio on Spotify because I love listening to him speak. And I think it just adds such another unique layer and dynamic to the ways in which you hear his stories. And so in Poems and Prayers, it's it's very spiritual. I mean, he's a very spiritual person, and he talks about his relationship with religion and things like that. But his thought process is just very spiritual and eccentric. There would be times that I would be listening to one of his poems or one of his little ditties, as he calls them, and be like, what is happening? What is going on in his brain? And then there would just be this golden nugget drop in that you're like, oh, light bulb, light bulb moment. That's beautiful. And he just has such a rhythm to the ways in which he shares his stories that I thoroughly enjoy. And as I was listening to this book, I would catch myself smiling outwardly, in my car, listening to the audio, and just be smiling because he brings such a charisma and joy into the ways in which he shares the things he writes. And I jotted down a few little light bulb moments that I had in some of the things that he shared, two specifically. And one was, don't find yourself, be the creation. And when I heard that, I was literally had to stop what I was doing and write it in my notes app, because how refreshing of a take is that? Don't find yourself, be the creation. I have spent so many years of my life with the idea of, oh, I'm finding myself. I don't know who I am anymore. So I'm trying to figure out who I am, and I'm trying to find myself. And, you know, that's something that we hear so often, especially along our healing journeys. And for him to say, don't find yourself, be the creation, I was just like, holy shit. Yeah. Yeah, we don't have to chase down who we are. We don't have to go through all of these motions and jump through all of these hoops to quote unquote find ourselves. We get to be the creation of our life and our experiences and our pain and our joys and our celebrations and our grief. We get to be the creation of all that we have been through. And that really hit home for me and felt so beautifully profound, and really was such my favorite part. Like, that was my favorite part of the book. I couldn't even tell you which poem, which line, which whatever, but that line, "Don't find yourself, be the creation," really opened my eyes to looking at life through a different perspective. And another one that really struck me was in a prayer that he prayed and jotted down. And it was, "My sight is getting in the way of your sound." And again, how often is that true for so many of us? Our sight, what we think is correct, what we think is the right thing, what we want, what we desire, what we envision, can get in the way of God's sound. And we forget that sometimes to figure out what the next right thing is that we just have to get quiet enough to listen and allow the clarity to find us, allow it to come in rather than us just thinking that we know the answer. So, two very profound moments for me in that book, and I wanted to share it with you guys. I highly recommend that you go and listen to this. Like, listen to it. Also, get the book, read it if you desire. But listening to it unlocks another layer of, I don't know, appreciation for his story and for what he shares and how he shares it. So I think I really rated this a 4.5, and highly recommend that you go check it out. And the next book that I listened to on audio, I'm literally pulling it up because I want to make sure that I pronounce it correctly, is Stop Letting Everything Affect You by Daniel Chidiac. I hope I said his last name right. And this book I just stumbled upon on Spotify because I've been going through such an identity shift this year. I feel like mentally my identity and my beliefs and the ways in which I think about my life and process the things that I'm going through has shifted. And this book had a lot of information in it that I already knew. But again, I think that it helps, especially when you're going through things and shifting. It's like the little reminders of the messages and just coming through in a different way. And that is what I got out of this book. I rated it a 4-star and really enjoyed listening to it. It was a very easy read, but like I said, it delivered a lot of messages that I already have had, that I already knew, but in a different way. It's exactly what I do here on this podcast. It's like all of the things that I share here outside of my own story are things that I've learned through books, podcasts, teachers, other people in my life. And I'm just delivering it in my own unique way using my voice. And this was what I got out of listening to this story through Daniel's lens. And I really appreciated it. Again, lots of good little golden reminders, lots of little nuggets of wisdom that were just reminders of all of these things that I knew and allowed me to take them and integrate them into my life in this new way as I've experienced such a shift this year mentally. And I've felt very kind of confused and lost at times, I don't know, things have just felt so foggy. And so when I can listen to books like this that are just very clear and very direct and very, oh, the delivery is very simple, not super convoluted. It's just refreshing and yeah, really helpful to me at this stage in my life. So if you find yourself looking for a book to help you navigate through some mental health struggles or trying to find clarity, stop letting everything affect you. It's a great book for empaths as well. And, the way that he just delivers that message of how you can implement boundaries and how you can navigate the emotions that may come up along the way. So, yeah. Okay, now all of the audiobooks, those are the two audiobooks that I've listened to. Now, let's dive into a book series that I have read over the last couple weeks, and it is the Bourbon Boys series by Victoria Wilder. And this series was recommended to me by a friend that hosts the book club that I'm involved in, and I had it on my TBR for a while and finally decided to pick it up, and I'm so glad that I did. I've never read anything by Victoria Wilder before, but I really enjoyed this series, and it had like some different elements to it that I haven't had in other books before. It's based on three brothers who, if you had to guess, they have their own bourbon company that has been passed down from generation to generation. The first book is called Bourbon and Lies, and it is about the youngest. I think he's the youngest brother. His name is Grant, and the female MC is Lainey. And she comes to town under some very mysterious circumstances. And this is what was fun about it, is because Grant used to be a police officer, and he has his own trauma and baggage that he is navigating and moving through. And Lainey mysteriously shows up into town with her own baggage and trauma to sort through. And it's very much, I would say, kind of like angsty, a little like hate to love in the beginning. He is very suspicious of her, and she is very intrigued by him. Definitely more broody and moody MMC, but I love how feisty these characters are. They don't just have banter, they have like feisty dynamics, especially with the women. And I absolutely love that. Watching Lainey and Grant's storyline develop and evolved, including the mystery element, including like the criminal aspects that are happening around them and how they navigate their family dynamics. Well, specifically his family dynamic, because she has been plopped down in his town on their family property where they run their family business, and she starts to become like an integral part of that. Um, yeah, I thought it was great. I loved that storyline. I thought that they had really great chemistry that was written. I rated it a 4-star. I think what held me back a little bit from this being a 5-star for me, I love smut and I love spice. But sometimes when it's like really over the top spice or like pages long, I can kind of check out, and that kind of like pulls me out of the story because I'm like, okay, it's great, but like maybe a little too much, a little too much. We don't necessarily have to go that far, do we? But yeah, it's a really cool story to be able to see how their angsty, kind of reserved tension escalates throughout the book, and then finally seeing them come together and navigate their trauma and their relationship and all of those dynamics. And like I said, I love, love, love a strong FMC, a feisty FMC, and Lainey doesn't take any shit. And she's a tough old gal, and I thoroughly appreciate that. Um the second book in the series is about the middle brother, and it is called Bourbon and Secrets. The MMC's name is Lincoln. The FMC's name is Faye. And this is one of those, it started out very interesting for me. Like the first chapter or intro was very interesting. When I first read it, I was like, Okay, how is this gonna play out for me? And then it, like, goes ahead 5 years later. Um, and I ended up loving it. I ended up loving it. I loved their banter, their dynamic. Lincoln is very much like a Mr. Sunshine, and Faye is just another feisty, like, badass FMC. She's a private investigator. She grew up in this town, but had to leave for mysterious circumstances that unravel throughout the book. Lincoln is a single dad and has two adorable daughters, and just like their addition to the entire book series was so cute. They are some very feisty little girls and I love that. I love that. They are very innovative and definitely give their dad a run for their money. So that was super fun. But again, have experienced their own versions of trauma, because that's kind of like the theme throughout the story, is that there's this quote unquote curse on the Fox family, on the Fox boys, that if you fall in love with them, you will die. So, we're trying to avoid that. But yeah, their dynamic, bringing her back to their town. There's a lot that you unpack with her family, and the connections between her family and his family, and all of these intricate storylines that overlap each other, that are just really fun, interesting, and give the story some extra depth. And they have very intense chemistry. They have very intense chemistry, which I think is so great and fun. And they've just always been drawn to each other, even though they don't want to be. Lincoln does not trust Faye when she first comes back to town, and rightfully so. Um, but as they unpack their secrets, um, it's really beautiful to see their relationship develop, to see her relationship with his daughters develop, and how she kind of finds her way in the fold of their family. She is also a burlesque dancer, which is something that I have never read in a book before, and I loved. I was the girl who went and saw burlesque in theaters, I believe 4 times. So I love that movie. I love that concept. I love that she was um, doing that as a job as well as the private investigating. And I loved that he was so supportive of it. Like, he wasn't like, oh my gosh, you're mine, you can't do this, I don't want people looking at you. Like, no, he was fully supportive of it and was like, yes, you go do your thing, but I know that at the end of the day, I'm the one that gets to go home with you. So I thought that was super cool, super great. Again, 4-star, because I feel like the way that she writes smut was a little bit, it's not that, like, even, like, the smut was too much, but it was just kind of, like, very long and very drawn out, and I would find myself, like, checking out of the book, like, "Okay, let's move things along. Let's get past this." Um, and yeah, but great, great book, great story, loved their dynamics. I love that there's no big dramatic, like, 3rd act breakup, and that these girls aren't, like, thrown through the trenches of a dramatic relationship. I mean, plenty happens, but that the young girls, Lincoln's daughters, weren't, like, I don't know, dragged through the mud and murky waters of, like, ridiculous miscommunication. Um, so yeah, very, very good. Highly recommend. Like I said, highly recommend this entire series, because it's got these different unique layers. Um, and in the 3rd book, this was the one that I was waiting for so bad. Like, I could not wait to get to the 3rd book. It's called Bourbon and Proof, and it is about the oldest brother, Ace, and Lincoln's best friend, Hadley. And so they have obviously both been characters throughout the other 2 books and played significant roles. Hadley owns a speakeasy called Midnight Proof, which I love. I also just love, like, the very, like, vintagey, badass, like, cool vibes that they have going on throughout this storyline. It's just, I don't know. it's like very Scorpio season vibes, which I appreciated as we are in Scorpio season. But Hadley owns Midnight Proof, such a cool name, such a cool concept, where Faye works, and Lainey as well as a bartender. So I love the friendship that is built between the three FMCs, and as well as like the brothers' relationships. And so watching Hadley and Ace's interactions, this girl is the most free spirit, absolutely like takes no shit and runs her mouth like a faucet, which I absolutely love. And so she has been Lincoln's best friend and been a part of the Fox family in that way for her entire life, pretty much. And she has always had a crush on Ace. And Ace has always been intrigued by her, but has put boundaries in place to not cross that line. And he is very much the older brother, like the oldest brother, wants to take care of everybody, wants to make sure everything's okay, boss man, in charge. Yeah, so like he's very much that like stoic, not let anybody see behind his walls kind of character. And Hadley is going to get under his skin and push his buttons every single chance that she can get. And I absolutely love that. I love that their version of flirting is fighting. And I've been so excited to see how they come together. And in their story was a marriage of convenience that blossomed into like a beautiful, beautiful relationship, which I absolutely loved. They Yeah, their banter, their chemistry, their tension just like pulled me in, pulled me in. This was my favorite story, even though there were some things in it that were just like not for me. Like I think that that happens with all stories. You can love and appreciate the storylines, and the characters and absolutely love it, but like they go to a sex club, those always I'm always just like, I don't know. That's never like my vibe in a smut book. But it was like very short. And then again, like I think the only thing that pulled me out of it is there was a couple times where the smut was just like pages long, and I was like, okay, wrap it up, wrap it up, wrap it up. But all in all, absolutely adored this entire series. The third book was my favorite. I rated it like a 4.25. And also, like I said, the mystery, the ways in which all of these integral storylines come together and like meshed, and how she wrote them. So interesting, so fun. Thoroughly, thoroughly enjoyed them. It's funny too, because I was thinking about some of these like tropes and stuff that they've got going on. And there's tropes that you love in a story, but you think about them playing out in real life and you're like, yeah, probably not be. It's great in a story. Like them going to a sex club in the story, it fit, it was fine, it was whatever. Like, okay, I can get through it, enjoy that. But then I think about that playing out in real time and I'm like, yeah, yeah, no. That wouldn't be for me. That wouldn't be for me. Morally gray men. It's like sexy as hell in a book. In real life, I I'm not sure. I'm not sure I could get down with that. But hey, it's amazing in a book. That's why we love them. That's why we read fiction, right? So we can escape and just like kind of put all of our uh thoughts and morals to the side and just appreciate the story for what it is, and all of the tension and the chemistry and the characters. So I highly recommend that you check out The Bourbon Boys. uh Prayers and Poems, or Poems and Prayers, by Matthew McConaughey, and Stop Letting Everything Affect You by Daniel I can't pronounce his last name, I'm sorry. Well, this is quick, easy, brief, to the point. I hope you find some good recommendations. If you've read any of these books, I would love to know your thoughts on them. So come and find me on Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook at Turn the Page Podcast. I can't wait to hear from you. I love you guys so much. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.